One. All right, Justin, welcome to the Nova University podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself to the people on the podcast, people on the panel, and the people that are listening to the podcast right now?
Yeah, well, first off, man, I appreciate you having me on. It means a ton. But yeah, my name's Justin Yurong. I'm mainly a real estate investor based out of Las Vegas, 25 years old. Been investing the past 40 years. It's been a mix of fix and flips, wholesales, rental properties. So that's been my biggest focus. And as of recently, I started actually coaching people to how to get, their first deal, the first 10 deals. So that's what I do full time. And then I just create content teaching people as far as how to do it, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. So that's kind of what I'm doing these days.
Nice, nice. And before you even got started in any of this, you started this 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So what was it like growing up? Were you always like real estate mindset, or like how did that happen?
No, not at all. So yeah, growing up, I always had the intention of working like a normal 9 to 5 job, maybe
Mhm.
like a finance job. That was actually what I went to school for. I got a bachelor's in finance. Ended up not really using it. I started to learn the finance industry and different jobs, and I was like, I don't think I like this that much. And so I felt kind of lost, at the end, near the end of college, and I came across real estate. I just heard about it, about investing online, and I had money saved up in the stock market. And I was like, I think I have enough to buy a house. I don't know how to do it, don't know what the potential is. And so I just started Googling stuff, and I came across a podcast. I was actually called Bigger Pockets. I listened to that thing every single day, during class, during drives to work, all that stuff. And over time, I just kind of got the confidence to try to buy the first deal. But no, I never had the intention to be full real estate like all the way. It was just kind of something that popped up in college.
Nice. And did you finish college all the way?
Yeah, yeah. I got did college for 4 years and did business finance.
Nice. And what's your point of view on college? Do you think people should go in, or do you think it's like you think it was like a waste of time to yourself?
For me, okay, so here's what I think really about college is it's really a chance for everyone to learn how they learn,
Yeah.
to learn what really works for them, whether it's their learning or different lifestyle. But in terms of the actual utility, it depends completely and 100% on what they're trying to do in life. Like if they want to be a doctor or surgeon, something like, yeah, go to college, do your degree because you need that stuff. Like there's a pathway. But if you're going to college the way I did for business finance, accounting's different, but like business, marketing, to be an entrepreneur, if that's a goal, yeah, don't I would suggest to not go to college unless your goal is to really network with the highest level individuals at the college, like the deans, the people with the money at the college, the richest kids, friends, and family. But if you're not doing it for that, then it would kind of be a waste of time, in my opinion.
Okay. And what did your family think while you were doing like real estate? Were they like kind of like, you shouldn't do this, or they kind of like, yeah, keep go with it?
No, there was actually a lot of pushback when I first talked about it because I was 20 at the time when I first started talking about it. I was like, oh, I'm learning about real estate investing, learning about these rental properties. I had money saved up. And as soon as I pitched the idea to my close friends and family, a lot of them were just like, maybe you should stay away. It's a little risky. I think you might lose money. And I was just like, I've been learning about this for a year. So it was kind of like a shot in the face. I was like, man. And so it was just, I'm just gonna do it myself and figure out what happens and just go along with it. And so, yeah, so that was actually one of the hardest parts for a lot of people. I think that when they're starting, especially if they're younger, they rely on the people closest to them,
Mhm.
not the people who are ahead of them and what they're trying to achieve. So yeah, it was tough for me.
Okay. Nice. I do like that you had that kind of pushback where you kind of fought that resilience. Now, how did you get past analysis paralysis? Like you're listening to the bigger pockets, you're listening to all the podcasts, you're probably reading all the books as well. How did you first get started? What was your first action?
My first piece of action into actually doing stuff was it was really okay, learn how to analyze the deals. I actually took a long time to actually take action. I'd listened to podcasts for maybe a year. Because I was young, I was like, I don't know what to do with this money. And so I just listened to ordinary people do these extraordinary things in real estate. And the common recurring theme I kept hearing was just, hey, you got to make offers, but before you do that, you got to first learn how to analyze offers, how to analyze the deals. And so I was like, okay, I should probably learn how to analyze the deals. First piece of action, I went to the rental property calculator on Bigger Pockets. I like created a version for myself on a spreadsheet so I didn't have to pay for their premium version.
Of
And then
course.
then I learned how to analyze deals and just continued to do that. And once I got comfortable with that, I was like, okay, I think I can make offers. And then I reached out to a real estate agent. Um, I had no idea. I literally told him, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I have money and I'm ready to buy a house. I just don't know what to do. And so that was the first step. And it was really scary, just learning to analyze deals. And then I reached out to an agent.
Nice. And a lot of people are wondering, how'd you get all that money in the beginning? Did you work a job? What did you do to like save up? All
Yeah,
that.
it was like 3 to 4 years of pretty much minimum wage jobs throughout
Okay.
college. I essentially always worked full time during college, even with a full time college schedule. And that came from like two, three different jobs at any given time. During the later half of college, I started also do personal training for myself. And so that was the first taste of like entrepreneurial income where it was still an hourly pay. You know, you train people, they pay you for the hour, but the hourly pay was much bigger than the
Yeah.
minimum wage. And so that was the first taste. And yeah, I saved like crazy, man. I was super frugal.
Mhm.
I'd go out to friends to dinners and lunches and order water and like, hey, I'd warn them like, hey, like, are you guys cool if I don't order anything? Or like it was that those kind of friendships. And you kind of find out who your real friends are during that time too.
I respect that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, because now you're saying you also took a commission-based job where you have to train people, fitness training, and not only that, but you've met people that actually support you for what you do. And I believe in our age, while we're trying to do the entrepreneurship and all this stuff, us finding people that we used to connect with from high school are they're like, hey, you changed a lot. Well, I look back, I'm like, you haven't changed at all. You're still in your little bubble, not spreading your wings. You have to grow up in a point of time. And it seems like you found that and you faced that kind of problem head straight. And a lot of people also wonder like if you found your agent, what did you do first? Did you house hack? Did you buy it 20% down? You said you had a lot of money, so what did you do?
Yeah, well, the first game plan was to actually try to house hack, which essentially buy a property, rent out the rooms or the units if it was multifamily. That was the plan. And so I told him, hey, I'm trying to look for multifamily. All my offers were on multifamily at first. And it was tough going because there weren't a lot listed in Fresno. I would offer on like every single one, the low offers, everything got shot down. And I was like, you know what? Like, what if I just expanded to try to single families too? So I looked for single family homes, just whether it's house hack or rental property. And I don't know, maybe about 6 months or a little bit less of making offers consistently. I found a single family home in Fresno, California, and made an offer. I drove by, I was like, this one makes sense for a rental property. And it was a conventional offer. So I used 15% down for that home. It was only $180,000 purchase price. But yeah, that was the first one. I just rented it straight out. Keep in mind, I was living with my parents at the time. So I bought it as a rental, still living at home, and it was kind of funny. I was like, "Oh, I own a house, but I'm with my
Well, you're not
parents."
living it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a dream. And you had HOA fees, right? Because you put 15% down.
No, no HOA fees. So it was in a non-HOA. But what you might be asking is like the PMI, the
Yes,
property
there we go.
mortgage.
My bad, yeah.
Yeah. So I
That
did
makes
have that.
sense.
Yeah. I paid for extra every single month for that.
Okay. And now that you got your started, because you're smart in doing this, because a lot of people there were like, hey, I don't want to live with my parents. I want to do everything adult mode. But you actually got out there, live frugally. That's what number one, right? I think Scott Trent or Jay Scott, forget his name all the time, but he said the book Set for Life or there's a lot of books that talk about living frugally will actually get you saving up this money and then investing it later. It's what you perfectly did. You lived with your parents, you finished your college there, you got a job, and you were working your butt off, saved enough money, and bought your actual first property. And you said 50% down. Now, did you negotiate at all, or do you just like, hey, I just want to get it done, deal? Is that what you did, or what was the
No,
story behind it?
the 15% down was really so it was like the lowest down payment I can find to legally make it a rental property right away.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I could have bought it with 3.5% down, claimed to be FHA, lived in it, and then rented it out. But I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to make sure I did everything right legally. And 15% down was where it also made sense. If I rented it out right away, it could still cash flow and I could still make money.
Nice. And what is that property doing right now?
I sold it. So
Nice.
I
Okay.
sold it. Uh it was just a good learning experience because I held it for a few years and then I learned the whole flipping game. I learned house flipping, I learned wholesaling. And in order to kind of make sure I had enough funds to comfortably launch that, I sold it so I have had more money available for the marketing and just the different expenses that came with trying to run a flipping business.
Yeah.
Because at first I did use basically all of my own money for the flipping business before I started raising money because I wanted to get comfortable. I didn't really have big mentors at the time. and I was just trying to learn it myself before I put other people's money at risk.
Nice. And well, when you sold that property, did you make a profit or what happened with that?
It was probably barely any total profit because it appreciated in the few years like $10,000. And there's a story behind it too. Like when I sold it, I bought it for 180, sold it for like 190. So it essentially became break even, or in terms of total profit, including all the rental income that came in. Um, but I accepted an offer, that $190,000 offer for that rental, and I was representing myself as a realtor. And I didn't realize how hot that market was at the time, because when I accepted the offer, maybe the next 2 days I got multiple other offers way higher than that, like up to 210,000. And I
Damn.
thought, crap, I just left 20K on the table. So learning experience, I let the emotions get to me in accepting an offer so quickly, which is also came from representing myself. And so now I
Nice.
don't represent myself. I'm like, I want you guys, I don't want my emotions to be attached to my properties. I don't want
Yeah.
to stay out. I want everything logical. So that was a huge learning experience for me too.
Nice. And you're a real estate agent. So how why'd you get your license and everything?
I mainly got my license because I thought being an agent, I'd learn more about the investing, which I didn't really, like, barely. I learned the transactions. It's really very helpful to understand how transactions work, but I didn't like the agent stuff that much. Like I felt like representing buyers, representing sellers, it's very good customer service. It feels good, but at the same time, it felt like I had so many bosses. Like all the sellers, all the buyers, they were my bosses. Like anything they said, hey, show up the house Saturday 9 a.m. Like I'm there. Like and so, being an investor, there was no more. I'm the boss. I control my time, and even though I do work a lot, like it's exactly how I want to place my time.
Okay. Wow. And so you wouldn't recommend investors to become an agent as well?
It depends on their goal. So if their goal, if they also want to see if they like representing buyers and sellers in their transactions and not just for themselves, then I'd say definitely do it. But if your goal is honestly just to represent yourself in your deals, I'd caution against it. It's not like, yeah, they'll make more money, but as your time is being spent on the listing, if you're trying to list your own flips or your properties for sale, your time is spent being an agent, not being an investor. And so you really have to decide, I think, if you want to grow fast, where your focus is going to be. So
Yeah.
it kind of depends on their goals. I think at the beginning there's no big harm to it because it's just extra money. But as you grow, you'll realize your time is split.
Yeah. And you being an agent, how did that affect a lot in your real estate investing at all overall, or is it like, hey, I'm still investing the same I am the same way I am, but it's kind of almost like another job in a way.
The only thing the agent effect, it didn't really affect it much. The only thing is that when I started wholesaling, so I started to
Oh,
wholesale.
yeah.
And if I don't know if your audience is familiar, but wholesaling is like flipping houses without actually buying them. So you're getting under contract to buy a house, and then you're flipping the contract and selling it to another investor to buy the house instead, and you make money in between. So that's wholesaling in a nutshell. But once I started doing that, and my broker caught wind of it, because I'd like tell all the agents at the brokerage, hey, I'm wholesaling this deal. Here are the numbers. I'm assigning it. This is not me representing the seller. And then my manager reached out. He's like, hey, what is this? And I was like, oh, this is wholesaling assignments. And then they're like, all right, let me talk to the broker to see if he's cool with this. And at the end of the day, he wasn't. And I was like, why? And I realized that it doesn't make them any money. If you
Yeah.
wholesale, you're not representing the seller, so they don't make money. And so they're always trying to push me to list them. But I'm like, dude, this guy doesn't want to list. Like he obviously wants to work. He just wants to get it done fast. He does not want to list the property. But we kind of butted heads, and I was like, all right, I'm done being an agent for sure. I was like, there's no more I'm doing this. So that was the only time where having a license got in the way of the investing.
Nice. And with your wholesale career going on, are you still wholesaling it right now? And how are you operating your wholesale business?
Yeah, I'm still wholesaling. I've actually mainly been flipping, but I'm trying to transition more to wholesaling at this moment because of the recession. So the wholesaling business, it's actually all run virtually. I don't know if you knew, but I live in Vegas, and then all my deals are done in California, mainly Fresno, California. And the wholesaling is pretty simple. You buy a house, or you get it under contract, you reach out to their buyers, and then you find someone who's willing to buy. Well, now there's so many less buyers. So how I have to run the operation now is you have to just touch bases with a lot of the buyers and like, hey, are you still buying? What are your criteria now? I know it's in recession. And then you'll realize your buyer list will really thin down. Um, so I'm always leaving all options on the table. I think this year I'm going to start to hold a lot more because the past few years I've been developing the income up
Yeah.
and up. And now I'm like, okay, I think like I don't want to pay these taxes anymore. Like I want to hold rentals, claim all the depreciation and like make all this income tax free legally.
Yeah.
So yeah, the wholesale, I mean, I still run everything the same. It's just I'm being so much more conservative with all the numbers now.
Yeah. We have a question here. How would you get started in wholesaling? What kind of tools or softwares would you need to get started in wholesaling?
Yeah, so for anyone wanting to get started in wholesaling, one, determine what kind of resources you have available in your skill set. So if you have money available, you could go the route of trying to find deals to wholesale off market. So these are homes not on market. You're directly contacting sellers directly, whether it's cold calling them, whether it's texting them, whatever. But it usually requires some type of budget to pay for the data, pay for a cold caller if you don't want to do the cold calling yourself. Um, what I kind of recommend most people, because this is kind of where I hear most people's situations, just being a coach, is I hear most people like they have no money. They're like, all right, there's no money to invest. And so I was like, all right, here's what you can do. There's two things that I like to do if you want to wholesale. One is, well, actually, this is the main one is target the MLS, target all the on market properties. And you don't even need a real estate agent for this. Like you can just look on the MLS yourself and you can look at these homes on Zillow, on Redfin, on anything, as long as you learn how to analyze the deals. It's step one. Learn how to analyze the deals based on what you're trying to do, what strategy you're using. Um, Once you analyze the deals, once you get comfortable with that, then it becomes okay. Every single home on the MLS and every home listed for sale, you just make offers and actually talk to the agents, kind of get the idea of the situation, the house. You make offers consistently. And if you don't know what that means, it's like a lot of people think that you just get deals on the MLS. Well, right now I have 27 interns making at least or trying to make three offers every single day on the MLS. And so we're making a ton of offers every single day. And that's really what it takes to get deals. Like if you're making one offer every week, you have to realize it's going to take some time for you to get a deal. It's a big volume game. So I would start with the MLS. You don't need an agent. You can just look on Zillow. You can look at the agent name for the homes that are listed. You reach out to them, you call them, text them once you analyze the deal saying, hey, we need to be at this number. And you're just going to get rejected a lot until you keep doing it and you keep following up and you finally get it accepted. So that's the start. Like a lot of people think you need to know so much more, but it's just learn how to analyze the deals, understand how the strategy works, and then make offers. That's it.
Nice. And for how many wholesale, I guess, how long did it take for you to get your first wholesale deal in a way? How many phone calls, how many either text messages? Because I know for myself, when I've done it, it takes like more than 100 phone calls because you're getting rejected multiple times. So, well, what is your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the time it takes to get any deal, I think it depends on three main factors. And those factors are going to be the data that you pull this from. Like with the data, it's going to be like if you're off market, the data, the volume that you're actually doing, and then your actual skill set in terms of sales ability. So you can be weak at sales, but eventually if you just do enough volume, you're going to get the deals done. The first wholesale I did, it actually took 500 calls, 500 or so. But I was on a very targeted list of high equity tax delinquent list that people were about to lose their houses in the next like 2, 3 months. And so it was a very, very hot list. But then the next wholesale deal took like I don't know, several thousand calls. So it's not an easy game. It takes a lot of volume.
Does it does. And how long did it take you to get your so now that you first invested into your first property, 15% down, how long did it take for you to get your second property and what's the story behind that one?
Yeah, so that one took a while. And that second property was with a mentor. That actually ended up being start to finish, that was a wholesale deal, but it took like a year after that first property or so. So I bought the first property. When I bought it, I was like, wow, like, I'm out of money now. What do I do? I didn't know about all the various strategies to do real estate with none of your own money. I thought you just had to use your money, pay it, and that was it. But then I learned of flipping. And then once I came across a mentor learning the flipping without, I was like, hey, this isn't even your money. Like, how are you doing this? And he was like, oh, I'm raising this from other people. Once you realize that, I'm like, okay, so we just need the deal. And I started looking, um, and a year later, I mean, it took probably another 6 months of just learning like different strategies, things that I could do because I didn't know, I didn't pay for coaching early on. Um, Probably after just yeah, a year after the first deal is when I locked up the second deal, and that was from just cold calling a list. And also when they didn't answer, I showed up at the door, knocked, and then build relationships with the seller who eventually gave me the deal. So it took a while. Like a lot of people think that the people at the top, like they all moved really fast. Some of them did, but a lot of them you'll find is that everyone had a slow, rough, rocky start, and then you figured it out. And that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, of course. And then what got you into whole coaching and everything? I know. Oh, but before even coaching, what got you into whole content creating and making YouTube videos or making TikToks, making Instagram reels? What got you into all that?
Yeah, actually, I've thought about creating content for a long time before I actually started doing it, but I had thought about doing it years back for personal training and fitness because that was a huge passion for mine. It still is. Um, but I just never did it. I didn't have the confidence. I wasn't ready, I guess, at the time. And then as soon as I started doing real estate, I was 2 years into doing real estate investing, doing deals. That was the moment I was like, okay, I know enough not to be like top tier expert, but enough to teach people at least to get to my level. And so that was a start. I was like, okay, I learned so much, made so many mistakes that I don't want other people to make. Let me just try to document my journey and then teach people along the way. And that was it. And it just started with YouTube, all YouTube. And over time, I was really horrible at it at first. And over time, it just got more fun and I enjoyed it overall. Um, but yeah, that was the whole start of why I created content is I just wanted to help people not go through what I had to go through because or at least accelerate the learning process.
Nice. And with coaching, was that also a big different environment to you? Like now you have people underneath you. Or how'd you well not that's not the right way to say underneath, but like people that you're teaching now that
Mhm.
you're being their mentor. How did you first of all, how did you get those people to like come towards you for that? And second, what is it like starting to teach people coaching? And are you also charging for that coaching business as well?
Yeah, so this isn't actually my business. I'm part of Future Flipper. And actually they're about to rebrand soon, but Future Flipper is a big real estate education company with Ryan Pineda. And I became a student of his at Future Flipper for the real estate investing like 2 years ago. Um, at the time, like he helped me just get clarity and like figure out a business plan and things to do, hold me accountable for the real estate investing business. And I realized over time that the social media was the thing helping me the most. Like I was getting deals from it, I was getting private money, I was getting affiliates. Like things were just happening with social media with a very small audience that I realized, okay, like, and everyone was asking me to coach them. And I was like, no, I don't have a coaching program. Just ask me questions and I'll help you when I can. Because I help everyone when I can. But then after getting so many inquiries, I was like, man, this is a lot. So I was thinking about starting coaching, but then Ryan had and the team had reached out to me. He's like, hey, do you want to coach for Future Flipper? Like a lot of my branding and the videos are so like it was so on par. And I believed in that community so much because it helped me. And so I just became a coach with them. And so yeah, I do get paid for the coaching. And it's really it's probably the most fun thing that I do. It's the most rewarding thing I do, especially like I thought the YouTube videos were rewarding because I get comments of like, dude, like you told me these things, I did it, made 20K. And like, whoa, like these like that's life changing for people starting out. I know it is. And as soon as I met these people in person, like at masterminds and events, then like when they tell you this stuff in person, it feels so good. So that it's the most fun thing for me.
Okay, nice. I've been, getting mentored, and I've been like, now me myself, I'm trying to get into that position where I can also teach people as well. And I'm just kind of curious on how you get that started and everything. And I know a lot of people now they're trying to get into the social media game. They're trying to start a YouTube channel, start a TikTok channel. Can you call that a channel as well?
Yeah.
TikTok. Okay. What is your best advice for it? Either is it like branding? Is it advertisement? What do you need to actually succeed in that realm of social media?
Okay, so anyone starting social media, I would say figure out if their goal is like a business purpose, is to figure out what your goal is. Because a lot of people just blindly post stuff, which is fine. Like it's a great way to start. But the way you can really accelerate not even just growth, but like maximizing the benefits of social media is identifying the person you're trying to target and what you're trying to get from them, and also what you're trying to give them. So when I was starting on social media, a lot of my focus was teaching stuff for new wholesalers. Because as I taught stuff for new wholesalers, I realized that I would attract a lot of wholesalers in my local market to bring me deals. And sure enough, it worked. I'd constantly get wholesalers reaching out on Instagram, Facebook, calling me like random numbers, like, "Hey, dude, I got a deal." Like, "Oh, who are you?" And you're like, "Oh, like you post all these videos, you help me. I have a deal. Like, I want to partner with you on it. Like, I don't know
Nice.
the steps to wholesale. Can you like? Yeah, I'm happy to split the profits if you just teach me." I'm like, "Oh, like yes." So that was a strategy. Like, but all my videos were catered to like, "Oh, hey, I paid a wholesaler $10,000, didn't count his pockets. Like, here's how." If like a lot of those videos were just like that and teaching wholesalers. So it depends on what you're trying to get out of it. For me at the beginning, I was trying to get out like that. I was trying to pull deals out of it. Everyone's looking for something different. If your goal is just to grow for the sake of growing, I would really ask yourself why. Because I have a pretty small audience. I have an audience of 5,000 Instagram followers, 2,000 TikToks subscribers or followers, and 1,000 or so YouTube subscribers. But just the past year, socials brought me over $100,000, maybe
Yeah.
150. And it's like you realize that and you think, oh, like I don't need $1 million audience, a million follower audience. Like you just need a handful of people who really, really trust you, and you have to understand who you're targeting and why. So, and and also if you're doing video, just focusing on the hook, first 3 seconds. That's it.
Nice. I love that. And what was like the biggest, oh, we have a question here from Sami. Go ahead, Sami.
Oh, hello. I just had a question. So when you're posting on social media, right? Like, what type of audience are you specifically targeting? Like, related to wholesaling, for example.
Well, right now my audience is a little different. Right now I'm targeting the brand new investor or wholesaler. Ideally I'm like as I'm speaking to the camera, I'm thinking of like a 25-year-old person, a 20-year-old man, most likely, because that's who follows my content. Someone who's maybe stuck in their 9 to 5 trying to escape, or maybe just like is not wanting to do 9 to 5, wanting a different way out to make income to set them for the rest of their lives. So like that's the kind of person I think of when I speak to the camera, because now I'm trying to target people to join coaching. Like, hey, like if you need extra help, just DM me the word coach. But that's my target. So that's the person I think of. And granted, most of the people are that person because that's who I know I'm talking to. But there's always a handful of people that are like kind of outside the range, but have the same qualities. Like maybe they're 40 years old, maybe they're a woman, and like they still filter through just because the message is still directed toward their like what their goals are.
Does that answer your question, Sami?
Yeah, thank you.
And what was your biggest struggle, Justin, during the ages of like, your early 20s?
Struggles, man. Okay, for me, yeah, this is probably the biggest. The biggest struggle for me early 20s was really overworking. I would grind the heck out of days. Like I would be nonstop. Because I did what I knew that I wanted a certain life, and I knew that in order to achieve it, I'd probably have to outwork the people around me. Like if I wanted something different later on, I'd probably have to do something different now. And keep in mind, like during the college days, all throughout college, 15 units was a full-time schedule for college. So I did that. I was always working at least 40 hours, most likely 50 or more, with like 2, 3 different jobs. On the side, I was trying to buy real estate. I was learning real estate investing. I was making offers at like 10 p.m. at night, and to all just restart the days like super early. So the biggest struggle for me was learning when to stop. Like you had to, I realized that I had to do this if I wanted to do this long term. I had to find different ways for me to recharge. And everyone has something different. Some people need the full weekend to really feel the recharge consistently without burnout, but everyone's different. Sometimes you just need like like a day to yourself. You need a few hours to just kind of like not look at technology, hike, whatever it is. And so that was the struggle for me, man. It was just like figuring out how to still be productive with my time without killing myself.
Yeah, no, that's true because I'm going through that same phase right now where it's like to me it's like all grind, right? No fun, no nothing. You just got to keep working, wake up, work again. Sometimes you forget that you need sleep as well.
Hmm.
And I think like like most of us entrepreneurs that are in our early 20s, we're starting out, or even those that are in their late 30s that are trying to start out as well. We're starting from rock bottom. We're trying to build our way up there. I mean, you put it to the point, like you don't, you're like at brink of almost death. Like, hey, this is like a negative thing. I need to work on it. And what would you say to those that say like, hey, it's harder now to buy real estate. Things are way too expensive. Back then, people used to buy properties for raisins. How am I supposed to compete here?
Yeah. And this is like one of the biggest things that I hear as far as why people don't invest. Like, you can always make money in real estate at any given time. You just have to understand that you have to buy good deals. Like, if you're buying at the asking prices and market values of properties, yeah, there are certainly bad times to buy. Like, when the market's going down, there are bad times to buy. But if you're just buying at the massive discounts, okay, let me put an example. Let's say a house's market value is $300,000, and it's this kind of market we're in right now. If you're getting that house under contract to buy at $150,000, even if the market drops to $200,000 market value, you still have $50,000 of equity or profit built
Yeah.
in. And so it's like you just have to buy good deals no matter what the market is. And if you don't think it's possible, you first have to believe it is, and then you have to do the work to achieve it. And that's all it is. It's kind of a belief thing, I think.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with that too. I give so many analogies to people like, hey, this is like this is the kind of like a marathon, right? You just got to keep going. You don't even know if you're gonna get something, but eventually, with enough luck, right, and enough time in that area, something's gonna happen. I think someone told me like, if you throw enough shit against the wall, it's gonna stick eventually. Something's gonna happen, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of people are gonna say like, Justin, how do you work so hard? Do you ever like feel like you're missing out, like you're the FOMO, right? Or do you ever feel like, all your friends are doing something and you're over here trying to do this wholesale deal or trying to do these cold calls that you don't even know that's going to work out, but your friends are out there having a party? What do you say to that? Like people that are missing out on, like, I guess, life events in a way.
Yeah, and again, I think this completely depends on the season of life you're in. But for me, like right now, the season I'm in is I'm very like I do different things. Like I was just out last night with friends and enjoying my time. I had extra calories to drink because I tracked my calories. I was like, oh, I had
Nice.
some like I could have 2 shots and stuff. But it really depends again what they're willing to sacrifice. And if you do something long enough, it becomes such a habit that it doesn't feel like sacrifice. And you realize you start to have fun with have fun with things as you get good at them. Like with anything that you're trying that's new, you might not like it at first because you're bad at it. But as soon as you get good at it, or as soon as you see benefits from it, then it starts to become really fun. And so I just left my girlfriend right now. She was over, and she was telling me, because it's a Sunday right now, and I was like telling her, I was like, oh, I want to set up my lights in the studio, do these things. And she made a comment. She's like, you like actually you do work a lot, but you're like, no, she said, you work for fun. It's kind of weird. And I thought, yeah, it is weird because it is fun to me. It's like, but if it's like I do everything that I want to do. And that's I think the thing that everyone should strive for, because really life's not fun when you're doing something that you don't enjoy. I used to be a banker working 9 to 5, and yes, it was stable income, but I felt miserable. And I know there's so many people out there that feel the same way, and it doesn't take much to break out of it. And that's all I'll say there. Like
Mhm.
it's miserable, and I wouldn't want anyone to feel how I felt.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Uh, and I do believe that some people have to go through that misery in a way to face that fact that, okay, I need to stop being miserable. It's like the whole like, if kids that are born poor are more likely to be trying to like work their ass off to get to that stage of life where they're really successful and they're eating the fruits of their labor, compared to like kids that are born into trust funds, right? And then they're like, hey, I have this all for free. I'm not going to work as hard, right? So in that scenario, I do believe that having that miserable state, like, man, because for me, I didn't work at a bank. I worked at a bakery, and I hated it because you would think I was making bread, right? Like not physical money, but like
Mhm.
actual bread. But I was like killing rats, making ice, making boxes, things that you don't come to mind whenever you're thinking of a bakery. And I think what hit my head was like, and I was like 16 at the time, and there was a rat that crawled up in my back, right? And I was like, hell no, I am not doing this anymore, right? But you would think I would quit after that, right? But no, I was still angry, right? I was
Yeah.
angry, but I was still working though. I was like, you know what? I'm still gonna have to work. And then I got fired, right? I got fired from there because um they didn't want like high schoolers to be working there at the time. And I was like, it, they had the business had like Spanish people in there, right? They had like, and they were like, oh, these guys, they can charge them whatever they want, pay them whatever they want. And for me, I kind of knew the law. I was like, hey, I need to get paid this amount, right? But they kind of fired me afterwards, and I was like, it kind of was a shock to me. I was like, okay, I got fired, but why do I feel so sad, right? Like this job, I mean, I hated this job. Why am I not feeling because again, a lot of people, they try to feel that they want that fulfillment of actually being productive in something. Like me doing that job was actually like, oh, at least I'm getting something out of it. It's like people think of like when I was in that position, I was thinking of life as a linear stage, but life's not linear, it's exponential. So it's not like if I beat this boss, I get this level, right? No, it's not nothing. It's nothing like that. And that's where I feel like a lot of people are getting stuck at. Like for me, I got stuck in that, oh, if I work this many hours, I get this much paid, and I'm okay with that. Because I know the future, and a lot of people, they don't want to put themselves in a situation where they don't even know the future, and that's where the biggest risk to reward comes out of. And I tell people all the time, hey, if you're working at Chipotle, if you're working at Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, right, you need to leave out of there because it's just draining you, and especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, the time and value, like yeah, you're making $10 an hour, but like is $10 is 1 hour of your work $10, or could you be doing that into something else, like starting a business? Like I know for you, for example, right, you're not going to go ahead and mow the lawns of all your properties, right? You're probably going to pay somebody to do that because it's a waste of time to drive over there, and it's a waste of time to actually be there when you could be wholesaling or doing another deal to make more money than that. See, and that's where I see a lot of people in. Again, I can relate with you because you were a banker. I was a baker. And it sucks, right? You got to live through that misery. And is there like what's the biggest fear decision that you made that was the biggest outcome?
Like a decision I was most scared about?
Yeah, that you took action on, or you were was it your first property that you were like really scared about, or was it something else?
No, that wasn't the scariest. I think the scariest was quitting a stable job. That was
There you
pretty
go.
scary.
Okay.
I quit a stable job and I had no other proven income yet. I had an idea. I was like, oh, okay, I could do real estate agent work. I could do flipping. It was an idea and I had some savings and I was like, okay, let me try. That was probably the scariest decision, but it has led definitely to the biggest benefits. That was the start. I think there's different points in everyone's life that they face something like that. And you just like you'll realize you don't know it at the time, but eventually you'll look back and think, yeah, that was a turning point for me.
Yeah. And let's say like a young entrepreneur is listening to this right now. They're 18 years old. How can they get started in the world of entrepreneur? Do they need to go to college? Do they need to uh, work at a bank to face what you did? Or do they need to start wholesaling when they don't know? Like, what's the biggest return on investment for their actions?
Okay, so right now, especially if you're young, the biggest thing you can do is just develop yourself and your own skill sets. And it could be anything. Like it could be developing a strong sales skill set. It could be developing a marketing skill set. And I'm not talking about getting a marketing degree or like a degree at college. I'm talking about like developing a true skill set where you're getting the experience of doing something and getting good at it. Because if you can get good at one thing, any one thing, over time, you could sell that service or sell the product or whatever it is that you're good at, and you can market yourself. Just because I graduated with a finance degree, like I felt very like I wasn't very marketable. I then had to go to get more um, trainings or certificates to really be marketable and sell what I could do. But when you're young, really, I think the biggest things is getting good at sales and marketing if you're an entrepreneur, because no
Mhm.
matter what you do, what product you sell, what you try to flip, whether it's sneakers, eBay, e-commerce, whatever you try to do, if you can get good at sales and marketing, you will be able to start anything and do anything. And then you'll run into the problems of like, okay, how do I run the operations of this? But yeah, just get good at sales, and it's really just developing yourself and your own mindset. So it's really I like books a lot. I like the educational books, um, finance books. I like whatever skill, like for me, if I'm trying to develop a skill, I'm going to try to read 10 books on that like right away so that I can like get a head start. Because the thought is, if I'm trying to compete, you're always trying to compete. And if I'm trying to compete with another investor, another person in my industry, then you have to realize if they have 20 years of experience doing that thing, they're probably better than you. But if you read 20 books on the one skill set that they have that you don't, you can probably at least get close and compete with
Yeah.
them like right away. And so that's the thing. If you figure out what you want to get good at, what you might be interested in, and then just start learning about it. And then once you learn about it, see things and try to do things with it too. Like if you're learning sales, try to sell something to someone, like buy candy bars or buy something to flip and then try to resell it to someone
Yeah.
later and just kind of just see.
Just have fun with that. Like you like to gamify a lot of things. I see it. And for you yourself, what is a lot of people are saying like you're pretty productive. And is there any productivity hacks that you have that you use or you learn so far? Because you say you read a lot of educational books. Is there anything that you picked up that helped you out?
Yeah. And the biggest productivity hack, it's really funny because it's counterintuitive to what most people think, is a lot of the most productive people that you see, the biggest people you see online, all the gurus, they don't necessarily have something you have. They don't have something that you have, which means they they don't do a lot of the things that you do that's holding you back. And like these are little things too, like all the things that suck up time out of your day, whether it's scrolling on the social media, or it could even be things in a morning routine that you actually don't need. A lot of people think you have to have the perfect morning routines, the 4-hour morning routines in order to really be successful. And really, if you're trying to achieve a certain goal monetary wise, it's like, what if you didn't do the 4 hours of morning routine and you just did whatever the work you needed to do right away? So a lot of the successful people out there, yes, they have certain things that they do every day because they like it, but really they focus really hard and they do the things that they know they need to do and they say no to everything else. Like, and they're really good at saying no. And so at any new opportunity that comes my way, like if it's not something for this upcoming year, if it's something new that comes into my life, a new opportunity, and it does not help me grow my brand, I'm most likely saying no. So you offered the podcast to me, or someone offered on your team offered the podcast to me. I'm like, oh, does it help me grow my brand? Yes, accept. So it's like you have to get really good at your priorities and learning how to say no, because you have to say no to as many things as possible. Because the moment you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else,
Yes.
and you always want it to be aligned with what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the only reason why I started this podcast because I was putting myself in people's shoes, right? Where, a lot of people are like, hey, let me meet up with you for some coffee, right?
Mhm,
And it's like, but what value am I giving back to them? Nothing really. So I thought,
mhm.
oh, let me just start this podcast because all these like really big people, they don't want to talk to me in a way, right? This is back when I first started. And now I'm like, okay, hop on this podcast. And then now you'll get more value because now the things that you're saying is going to be spread through. And now instead of you saying it over and over again, you could just share it. Or the people that are listening to this, they'll reach out to you and give value back to you as that way. So
Yep.
I can't like we had like some guy, Rich Aubry here, and he talked about Turo, right? Starting a Turo business, renting out cars. And I kid you not, so many people reach out to him because like they wanted to get started. And I started doing a Turo business just because of him. So like the values were being exchanged everywhere. So it's all about like again, like you said, saying no whenever it's saying no because you're probably saying okay, saying yes. If you say yes, you're saying no to something else.
Mhm.
And I believe that 100%. Sometimes I kind of like I have a hard time doing that as well because like, man, if I say no to this person, even though I got something important to do, but is it really that important? Do I have to say no to this person because this person is a high figure earner and I can learn a lot from them. If I want to break that connection, I don't want to do that. So it's like a lot of things just goes through my head whenever I got to say no to some people. But you're right though. Saying yes to things, well, you're saying no to other things. And what's the biggest lesson that you want people to understand
In like life, or
in
what do
life?
you?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if it's that big and that arching, the biggest lesson really, or the takeaway, the message that I wish I could spread is just be nice to people. Like a lot of people think in business, you have to be a shark and you have to take advantage of people. And even though like in real estate, my business, you're getting really good deals at massive discounts. People think that you take advantage of people, but really every single person that we buy a house from, it's like they want to sell it to us.
Yeah.
We give them different options. We're like, hey, like you could make more money on the market, but it's probably might take longer. And you like weigh out all the options with them. But really, like in business, if you are just kind to people, you can still win, and you're gonna make a lot better relationships along the way. So that's kind of how I approach life. Is I just try to be kind, and if someone's down, you help them, and no matter who. And that's kind of the message I wish to spread, because I think entrepreneurs and people striving for wealth get it mixed up, that you can just go after the money without caring about people. So I think if you go care about people first, I think you go a lot farther.
I agree 100% with that. And now we can move on to the ending questions here, Justin. So if you can go back in time and ask your younger self or tell your younger self something, what would it be? Let's say, since you're already young, let's say 16, right? 16 years old.
Damn. If I went back and I could influence my 16-year-old self, I would have immediately told him to make content. I wouldn't even said make whatever time. I just said make content consistent and do not give up. Because I guarantee you, if I started content at 16, I just naturally would have gotten better at it. I'm 25, that's 9 years of content. And a lot of the biggest influencers you see today with the biggest influence and make the most money, they've been doing it 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And so you realize if you want to hit that level, you have to put out the output, and you have to do all the work. And if I started early, like my life would have been drastically different. And I probably would have started out just talking about stuff that I liked. You know, if it was basketball during school at the time, it was girls, whatever it is, it's like I would just talk about whatever I talked about. And over time, the audience would have built, because that's what a lot of my friends who have been in content longer than me, they've done it. And it's like I've seen it time and time again. And if I were to say that one thing to myself, my life would have been different.
No, I agree with that. Making content, that's a good thing. And what would you like to ask your future self? Right, a question that you like to ask your future self, let's say 20 years from now.
What would I like to ask my future self?
Yeah.
That's a question.
Don't worry, that stumps all the people that's been on the podcast. Are like, oh, okay.
I would have asked myself, was everything worth it? Like I would have wanted to make sure that my future self got to that point, because I don't doubt that I'll hit where I want to hit goal wise, but I would ask myself, was it worth it, in terms of, were the things that I sacrificed worth it? Did I stay true to my values? Did I have to sacrifice any of my values along the way? Did I have to take advantage of people to get to like, those are the kind of questions. And it would start with like, was it worth it?
Mhm.
That would be the biggest thing, because I would want to hit a place in my life that I'd want to hit, but I want to do it exactly how I want to do it. I wouldn't have want to hurt people along the way, or to sacrifice my values to get what I wanted. So that's probably the question I would have asked.
Nice. Okay, I love that. And what do you think the secret sauce is to being successful?
I think it's just not giving up. I was about to say hard work, but I was like, people can work really hard but give up too soon.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about like 3 years in, still too soon. Like I'm talking about sticking to something consistently and just not giving up. Because where I see most people fail is they actually just give up. And I'm like, most times the times where I've seen most success, it's the times where I'm like at bottom, I'm like, man, this sucks. I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. And then it's like, sure enough, a week later, something happens and you're like, oh, it was all worth it.
Yeah.
So just don't give up, and you're fine.
Having that patience. Also, by the way, you said that you track your calories. Were you mad whenever MyFitnessPal they made their scanning the barcode like a pay thing now?
Oh no, I never use that.
What do you use?
No. Well, no, I use MyFitnessPal. I don't use a scan.
Oh,
I
really?
just, because I used to be like a bodybuilder, and I can kind of see things now in terms of
Okay.
like 4 ounces of stuff, whatever. So I always enter stuff. I never really scanned.
Nice. Okay. What is that called? Whenever you just like, now you could just, instead of like, you're still counting calories, but now you don't measure, you don't do any of that. What is that called?
I can eyeball it, I guess.
Okay.
Eyeball, like, and really the only things I try to track are calories and protein. Like, did I hit my
Yeah.
calorie count? Did I hit the protein? The rest, I don't really, carbs, fats, I don't really care. Protein and calories.
Yeah. I'm the same way, but I got to measure my stuff all the time. Like, oh, there's 4 ounces of meat. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you do
it.
if you do it long enough for years, you're gonna get a real good idea of like, okay, that's probably 4 ounces, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, of course. And what quote do you live by?
Oh, it's actually on my wall. I know it's backwards, but
Yeah.
it's a Bruce Lee quote. It says, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own. And the thing that I get from that is that you can learn from everyone. Like anyone, anything says, no matter where they're at in life, you can just hear it. At least let it come. Let it come in one ear. But then once you hear it, you make it your own. So you can either apply it in a different way or in whatever way that you're trying to do, or if it's not actually useful, just discard it. And so that's kind of what I live by is just be open-minded to hear new things, because the person who's closed-minded, they won't grow. You have to hear new things, you have to see new things, and some things they aren't actually productive to you and your goals. And for those things, you just toss away.
Nice. I like that quote actually. I might
Yeah.
have to put it up somewhere on my wall as well.
Yeah.
What books would you recommend for people, either a certain situation, whether it's business, self-improvement, whatever? Name whatever books that you want.
Two books come to mind. They're probably equally good in terms of everything, business, life. The first is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Great book.
It just teaches you how to be a good person, and you can apply this to business and life, relationships. The second book, this is more of a success book, but it's also personal. It's called Atomic Habits. And it's a book that describes habits and how we have habits, because we all have habits whether we realize them or not. Like if you walk into a dark room, the first thing you do is you turn on a light switch. It's a habit, but you don't even realize it's a habit because you've done it so much that it's been ingrained in your head. You have these habits with everything, that whether they're good or they're bad. And so it kind of teaches you how you can like manipulate that and the knowledge of that to do the things and make habits productive to whatever you're trying to do, and to how to really remove all the bad stuff. Because you realize if you have habits now, however old you are, that's like if I'm 25 and I have a bad habit, that's like 25 years of bad habits. And then you have to really learn how to remove it and how to replace it. So
Yeah.
that's a great book just for productivity.
Oh yeah, you're right about that. And is there anything that you would like to tell your mother and father if they're listening to this podcast?
Wow, if they're listening, I love you guys. I don't think they're listening, but if they are, that's all I want to tell them.
There you go. That's sweet. And finally, how can people reach out to you and give value back to you?
Yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to me, just go to my Instagram, and it's just my name, Justin Yurong, at Justin Yurong. Last name is spelled Yurong for people just listening. And then first name's Justin. It's just normal Justin. But yeah, reach out. I'm happy to help. And it's, as of now, it's me answering the DMs.
Nice. And what value can they give back to you? Like, what do you need help with or anything? What's the problem that you're facing right now?
Not I wouldn't want people to reach out if I don't have problems right now, but if they want help in terms of their real estate investing business, or if they want to learn how to grow their social media and make money from it, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you out in those different ways. I have a coaching for the real estate, and I'm partnered with a great coaching program for like helping entrepreneurs grow their social media and monetize it, because that's been life-changing for me, and I think it could help a lot of people too.
Nice. Well, again, Justin, thank you for hopping onto the podcast. You were amazing.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.